Okay, good day YouTube folks. This is my first video ever doing a tutorial on maintenance, so bear with me. Anyway, all I want to say basically is that if you need to replace your starter, or at least try to repair the starter for your KFX 90, you'll have to make sure that you have the right part number for the year and the model. This one was bought thinking that it would fit on the year that I have, but it doesn't. It's got a smaller shaft and spline, so it doesn't actually fit. And the parts aren't interchangeable with the old one as well because the housing is a smaller size. So make sure you have the right part number if you're going to order a new part. If not, that's okay. I'm just going to show you a couple things that you can look at to maybe get it working again if it's not working currently. Also, with the remove and install of these parts, make sure that you have your O-ring in there to keep water and dirt out of your clutch housing. Alright, first thing that we need to do is remove the screws in the back to take the housing off. When you're taking it apart, I'll show you in a minute, you want to hold on the splines here so that your rotor inside stays on this side here and keeps your brushes in from coming out, and you're just going to pull off the back of it. So looking closer here, when you're removing your screws in the back of the housing, just ensure that you have your parts reinstalled when you put the screws back in. There's a rubber washer to keep the dirt and water out. Then you have a standard washer to protect that rubber washer, and a split ring lock washer, as you can see here, to hold it together so the screws don't come loose, and that's it. So just make sure they're reinstalled in that order. I have my wonderful wife holding my phone for me here for a second. Alright, so as you can see, there we go. We're going to hold the spline so that the housing comes off the back, but we don't. There we go. The magnets are a little bit strong in there, so it takes a bit of work to get it out, but that's okay. So what we have here now, thank you very much, is the inside guts of your starter. And if you look closely, bear with me here, I don't have a proper thing to hold my phone. You're going to see there's a brush on each side there. So right in the center of the screen is a little carbon brush, and that goes against these pads here that rotate. And that's what gives you your constant electrical connection as it turns. You have a brush on each side. So one allows the electricity to flow in through your motor, and the other brush on this side allows it to flow out. So what you can do is you can take a look and make sure that these pads are actually making contact. Now, just to let you know, once again, this is a new motor, so a new starter motor, so it looks nice and clean. Inside an older one, it's not going to look nice and clean like this, but that's okay. So each one of these pads is spring loaded. So on this side, the spring's on the left-hand side. You can't really see it because it's compressed right now. But they push those blocks or brushes up against the middle that rotates. Now, sometimes those can seize. If there's dirt or water that gets in there at all, it can cause it to seize. Or just the dust from the blocks themselves, after there's some wear and tear on them, can cause it to seize a bit. So what you need to do is take out your center part here, which I am not going to do for the simple reason that this needs to be returned and I don't want to have the pain of dealing with it. But if you look while you're turning there, your center pieces are moving and your brushes are rubbing up against it for that electrical contact. So what you can do is you can use a bit of contact cleaner, or you can use a bit of isopropyl alcohol or any kind of cleaner to clean out where the blocks are located, and then spray a lubricant or put some kind of lubricant in there that will not isolate your electrical contact. So personally, what I like to use is Krown Rust undercoating that you use for cars and trucks. That stuff works quite well for electrical contacts, especially if they've already been corroded and aren't working anymore. Spray that stuff in there, just a little bit each side. It'll help free up the brush blocks so they'll move in and out freely and have continuous contact with your rotor there. And that should, in some cases, help your starter to work again if it's not working. The symptoms for this kind of starter, if the brush blocks are pressed back and they're stuck, not making contact, is that when you go to press your starter switch, you won't see anything. You might hear the starter relay click, indicating power is going to the relay, but the starter itself won't make any noise or won't turn. So if you have that, take it apart like I showed you here, clean out those little brush blocks, and then basically what you do is you pull this whole section out of the housing on this side. Those brush blocks will be free to take out and clean. When you put it back, it's a bit of a pain. You'll have to find a way to push the brushes back in, hold the spring back so that you can reinsert this inside. But once you've done that, then it should work quite well. Make sure any areas that are lubricated beforehand, like along here, just make sure that if you do rub the lubrication off, that you just re-lubricate so it doesn't wear out your parts. Anyway, that's it for today. Hopefully that helps some people out there, save you a bit of money, and hopefully it's not too much of a headache figuring it out. All right, take care. Just for some clarification there, in this particular model of starter, you can see that there is a spring on the right-hand side of the brush block there, and that's fed in, and it pushes the block up, as you can see right in there. So that's a coil style spring, I suppose you would call it. There are other kinds that go right in behind the block and push it up that way. So this looks like a better style. It looks like it'd be more reliable than the older one that I had actually worked on earlier. But with the older ones, there'd just be a tiny spring in behind the brush. And just the same kind of thing you'd see that holds your AA battery in place in a battery compartment. And those don't have as much pressure to them, so they're not quite as reliable. I feel like this one would be quite a bit more reliable and you wouldn't have to take it apart and clean it. But anyway, take care.